The stars were bright and clear as Daniel Carter looked through the window of his small spacecraft. He had always dreamed about exploring other worlds, but now he was really here, flying over a planet no one had ever visited before. Daniel was not alone. His friends Samantha Bell and Aaron Brooks were with him, and they were all part of the same space program. They were chosen for this mission because they were good at their jobs and could work together well, even when things got hard. The planet below them was called Xyrian. Scientists back on Earth believed that Xyrian was once full of life, but something had happened a long time ago, and now the planet was silent. There were old ruins everywhere, broken buildings, and strange shapes in the sand. Some people said it was haunted. Daniel was not sure about ghosts, but he did feel a little nervous. Their spaceship landed near the biggest ruin they could find. The building was round and tall, almost like a castle, but it was made from smooth black stone that shone in the sun. Vines and moss grew all over it, making it look like it had been sleeping for many years. Daniel put on his helmet, checked his suit, and stepped outside. The air was thin, and the sky was a pale purple color. It felt strange, but Daniel tried to stay calm. Samantha and Aaron walked with him toward the entrance. Samantha was carrying a scanner to check for danger, and Aaron was taking pictures to send back to Earth. Daniel felt a strange excitement in his chest as they walked into the darkness of the old building. Inside it was cool and quiet. Their flashlights showed walls covered in carvings, pictures of people and animals with long, flowing shapes. There were no words, only pictures, but Daniel could tell that the people who lived here loved art and stories. At the center of the building was a large hall. In the middle of the hall stood a group of statues, each one different. Some were tall and looked proud, others were small and seemed to be laughing. The biggest statue was at the front. It was a woman with long hair, wearing a dress that looked like it was made from water. Her eyes were closed and her face was calm. Daniel felt like she was waiting for something. Samantha spoke softly. "Do you think these statues were important to the people who lived here?" Aaron nodded. Maybe they were leaders, or maybe they were just loved by everyone. Daniel could not look away from the big statue. He reached out and gently touched the chest of the statue. The stone was cold under his glove. At first, nothing happened. Daniel started to pull his hand away, but then the statue's chest felt warm. A small light glowed beneath the stone, and the statue's eyes slowly opened. Daniel froze. He could not believe what he was seeing. The stone woman turned her head and looked right at him. Her hand shot out and grabbed his wrist, strong but not painful. She leaned forward, her eyes shining with a soft blue light. She whispered something that Daniel did not understand. The words felt like music, soft and sad. Samantha and Aaron shouted for Daniel to move back, but he could not. The statue's hand was holding him, but it did not hurt. Instead, Daniel felt calm, almost peaceful. The woman's eyes looked deep into his, and then she spoke again. This time, Daniel could almost understand the words, "You must help me." Daniel tried to speak, but his mouth was dry. He managed to say, "Who are you? What happened to you?" The woman let go of his hand. Her body shimmered, and the stone began to fade away. Under the stone, there was soft skin, pale blue and glowing gently. She was no longer just a statue. She looked like a real person, though her hair still seemed to float like water. She knelt on the ground, weak and tired. Aaron took a step forward. "Daniel, are you okay?" Daniel nodded. He turned to Samantha and Aaron and said, "She needs our help." Samantha looked worried. "Daniel, this is dangerous. We don't know who she is." Daniel agreed, but he also felt a strange trust in the woman. He turned back to her and asked, "What is your name?" The woman looked up. Her voice was soft. "My name is Alira. Long ago I lived here with my people. We were happy, but then darkness came. A being called Korvax came to our world. He was full of anger and wanted to rule everything. He tricked us and destroyed our cities. He turned me into stone so I could not fight back." Daniel listened carefully. "How did I wake you up?" Alira smiled weakly. "You are human. Your touch broke part of the curse. I felt your kindness and hope." Aaron crossed his arms. "But why do you need our help? What can we do? Alira looked sad. To be free, I need 3 special crystals. They were hidden by my people before Korvax took them. Without the crystals, I will turn back to stone and Korvax will wake again. Daniel promised, we will help you find the crystals. Samantha whispered to Daniel, Are you sure about this? Daniel nodded. I feel like we have to try. Aaron agreed, though he looked worried. We'll help you, but we need to be careful. Alira smiled, hope shining in her eyes. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you all. The hall felt brighter now, as if the building itself was glad to see Alira awake. The carvings on the walls seemed to shimmer in the light, and Daniel felt a new sense of purpose. He looked at Samantha and Aaron. Let's get ready. We have a new mission now. They left the hall together, walking back to their ship to gather their tools and supplies. The night on Zarian was silent, but Daniel could feel Alira's presence beside him. He wondered what dangers they would face and if they could really save her world. As they prepared for their journey, Daniel knew that nothing would ever be the same again. He had touched a statue and woken up a princess. Now he had to keep his promise. The sun began to rise, casting soft pink light over the ruins. Daniel looked at Alira and saw the hope in her eyes. He smiled, ready to face whatever was waiting for them on this strange and silent world. The sun on Zarian climbed higher as Daniel, Samantha, Aaron, and Alira prepared for their search. The sky was a strange pale purple, and the air was thin and a little cold. Daniel kept looking at Alira, amazed by how alive she seemed now. Her skin glowed softly and her eyes were bright, but he could see she was still weak from being a statue for so long. Even so, she stood tall and tried to smile at everyone. Samantha and Aaron were careful around her, but they watched her with curiosity. And a little bit of worry, Alira led them back into the old temple. She moved slowly, touching the walls as if she was remembering things from long ago. The carvings on the walls told stories about her people, beautiful scenes of laughter, dancing, and flying ships. She paused at a carving of a tall, dark figure. With sharp eyes, Daniel saw her hand shake a little. That is Korvax, she said quietly. He brought fear to our world. They followed her to a hidden door in the temple's floor. Alira knelt and pressed her hand to a strange symbol. The door slid open, revealing a narrow staircase. Daniel's heart raced. He glanced at his friends, then started down the stairs. With Alira, Samantha and Aaron came close behind, their lights shining into the shadows. The air below was colder and smelled of stone and dust. The stairs led them to a small chamber. Inside was a round pedestal with a faded blue crystal on top. It shined softly, lighting up the whole room. Alira smiled and walked to the crystal, but as she reached out, a wall of light flashed between her and the pedestal. She fell back, surprised. Daniel hurried to help her. Samantha scanned the room with her device. There's some kind of energy. Barrier here, she said. Alira's face grew sad. This is the first crystal. My people hid it and protected it with old magic. Aaron studied the carvings on the walls. These drawings might be a clue. They look like instructions. Daniel joined him. The carvings showed 4 symbols, a hand, a star, a drop of water, and a circle. Under each symbol, there was a symbol. Picture of someone touching the crystal, then lines showing the barrier fading away. Samantha thought for a moment. Maybe we need to touch the pedestal in a special way or use something from the planet. Alira looked weak but hopeful. My people believed in simple things, friendship, trust, and hope. Perhaps that is what will open the way. Daniel stepped forward. He placed his hand on the first symbol, the hand. The wall of light flickered but stayed strong. Samantha tried the star, and Aaron tried the drop of water. Nothing changed. Alira watched them, then stepped forward and put her hand on the circle. She whispered something in her own language. The barrier flickered, then faded a little. Daniel felt a rush of courage. Let's do it together. They all reached out, touching the 4 symbols at the same time. Alira started to sing softly, her voice gentle and sad. The barrier flickered, then slowly vanished. The room felt lighter, and the crystal glowed brighter. Alira stepped forward and picked up the blue crystal with both hands. She held it close. To her heart, her eyes shining with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "This is the first step." Suddenly a deep rumble shook the room. The walls trembled and dust fell from the ceiling. Alira's face turned pale. "Korvax is waking. He knows I am free." They hurried back up the stairs, clutching the blue crystal. Outside, the sky looked darker, with clouds swirling over the horizon. Daniel felt a chill, as if something was watching them. Alira told them, "We must move quickly. The next crystal is far away, near the edge of the Sea of Mirrors." Samantha looked at her map. "That's over 100 miles away. We'll need our rover." They rushed back to their ship, loaded the rover with supplies, and climbed inside. Alira sat beside Daniel in the front seat, looking out at the empty land. "My people were travelers," she said softly. "We loved to see new places and meet new friends." Korvax hated that. He wanted everything for himself. The rover bounced over rocky ground. Strange plants glowed softly in the shadows, and tall stones rose like teeth from the earth. Daniel watched the sky, worried that something might come out of the clouds. As they traveled, Alira told stories about her world. She spoke about floating gardens, tall cities, and festivals that lasted for days. Daniel listened closely, feeling sad that all those things were gone, after many hours. They stopped near a shining lake. The water was still and bright, almost like a giant mirror. Alira said, "The next crystal is hidden under the water, in a temple that is now sunk deep below." Aaron frowned. "How do we get down there? We don't have diving gear." Alira placed the blue crystal on the ground. It began to glow, sending out a soft light across the water. "The crystal will show us the way." "My people left safe paths for those who come with hope." Samantha tested the water. "It's not too deep here. Maybe we can swim." Daniel and Aaron tied ropes around their waists, and Samantha made sure their suits would keep them warm. Alira stood at the shore, singing softly. The water around them began to glow, showing a path of stones under the surface. Daniel took a deep breath and followed the glowing path. The water was cold, but he could see shapes below him, broken columns and faded carvings dot at the bottom. Daniel found a small doorway. He pulled himself through, and Aaron followed close behind. Inside was another chamber, with a second crystal, green and bright, sitting on a small stand. As Daniel reached for it, a shadow moved in the water. He turned and saw strange shapes, like fish, but with sharp teeth and dark eyes. Aaron shouted, "Hurry!" Daniel grabbed the crystal, and Aaron kicked at the strange fish. They swam quickly back to the surface, the water swirling with movement. Samantha helped pull them onto the shore. Daniel handed the green crystal to Alira, who thanked him with a tired smile, but the danger was not over. The sky above them grew even darker, and thunder rumbled in the distance. Alira's face was full of fear. "Korvax is angry. He will send his servants after us." They ran back to the rover, starting the engine as rain began to fall. Lightning flashed, lighting up the hills. Daniel looked at Alira, who clutched the two crystals in her hands. She seemed small but very brave. Samantha drove as fast as she could, following the glowing line that the blue crystal made in the storm. Daniel tried to comfort Alira. "We're not going to give up. We'll find the last crystal and stop Korvax." Alira nodded. "You give me hope, Daniel. Humans are stronger than I ever knew." The storm followed them all the way back to the ship. The air was full of energy, and Daniel could feel the fear in his friends, but he also felt something else, courage. He knew the real fight was just beginning. Alira trusted them, and Daniel knew they could not let her down. As the storm roared outside, Daniel looked at his friends and said quietly, "We're in this together, no matter what comes next." They held on to that hope, even as the thunder shook the land and the shadows grew closer. They were a team now, three humans and an alien princess, facing the darkness together on a world far from home. The storm finally passed in the early hours of the morning. Daniel, Samantha, Aaron, and Alira sat together inside the small ship, tired but alive. The two crystals, blue and green, sat in Alira's lap. They glowed with a gentle light, giving everyone hope. Alira thanked her new friends again and again. She spoke softly. telling them about the third and last crystal they needed to find. "The last crystal is the most important," Alira said. "It was hidden deep inside the mountain of fire, far from the city. My people believe that only someone truly brave could find it. Korvax could never reach it because he was afraid of the volcano." Daniel looked at the map with Samantha and Aaron. The mountain of fire was almost on the other side of the planet, across wild forests and old, empty roads. Samantha wondered if they would have enough fuel and food for the journey, but Daniel was sure they had to try. "We made a promise," he said. "We can't give up now." They left at sunrise, the sky turning from purple to blue as they traveled. Alira sat in the front of the rover, holding the crystals close. She watched the land pass by, sometimes smiling, sometimes sad. She missed her world, but she was also happy to have new friends beside her. Samantha and Aaron watched for danger. As they crossed dry plains, dark forests, and rocky hills, sometimes they saw shadows moving in the distance. Alira told them that Korvax's servants were always near, hiding and waiting. Daniel felt the hairs on his neck stand up when he saw strange, thin creatures with bright eyes staring at the rover from behind trees. But none of the creatures attacked. And soon the team left the forest behind. By the second night, they reached the base of the mountain of fire. The mountain was taller than anything Daniel had ever seen. Its top was lost in thick smoke and clouds, and red light glowed from the cracks in the stone. The air was hot and smelled like burned metal. Aaron parked the rover at a safe distance. The team checked their supplies: water, food, ropes, and the tools they would need to climb. Alira wrapped the 2 crystals in soft cloth and carried them in a small bag. She looked up at the volcano and said, "We must be careful. The spirits of this place are strong." As they started the climb, the ground shook a little under their feet. Samantha slipped on a loose stone, but Daniel caught her arm before she fell. "Thanks," she said with a weak smile. Daniel nodded. He felt strong when his friends needed him. The way up the mountain was hard. Rocks slipped away under their boots, and sometimes hot wind blew ash into their faces. Alira sang softly as she walked, and Daniel noticed that the ground seemed less dangerous when she sang. He thought maybe the mountain was listening to her voice. Halfway up, they reached a ledge with an old door cut into the stone. The door was covered in symbols, some of them glowing faintly. Aaron studied the door and realized that the symbols matched the ones they had seen in the other temples. "It's a puzzle," he said. "We have to solve it to get inside." Samantha read the symbols out loud. Hope, courage, kindness, and trust. Daniel placed his hand on the word for courage, and Alira touched hope. Samantha and Aaron pressed their hands on kindness and trust. The door slowly opened with a heavy sound. Inside the mountain was a wide tunnel, warm and glowing with red light from lava below. The walls were covered in more carvings showing people fighting a great darkness. Daniel saw a carving of Alira looking brave and sad. He realized she had given up so much to protect her world. As they walked deeper, the air grew hotter. Alira slowed down, and Daniel offered her his water. She drank with a grateful smile. "Thank you, Daniel. You are a good friend." At the end of the tunnel, they found a high bridge over a river of lava. In the middle of the bridge stood a shadowy figure with burning eyes. It was one of Korvax's servants, tall and thin, with long arms and sharp claws. The servant hissed at them, blocking the way. Daniel stepped forward, trying not to show his fear. "We have come for the crystal," he said. The servant laughed. A strange, empty sound. "No one can pass," it replied. "You are too weak." Alira held up the blue and green crystals. "We are not weak," she said. "We have hope and courage." The crystals shone brightly, and the servant stepped back, afraid of their light. Samantha whispered, "Let's move together." They all crossed the bridge as fast as they could, the servant hissing and trying to grab at them. Aaron swung his backpack, hitting the servant's arm and making it let go of Daniel's sleeve. Daniel and his friends ran to the other side, breathing hard. The last chamber was small and round, with lava lighting the walls. In the middle sat the third crystal, bright red and beautiful. But around it was a ring of fire, too wide to jump. Daniel looked at his friends. How do we get across? Alira took a deep breath. We must work together. Each crystal has a power. If we hold hands and believe, maybe we can make a bridge. Daniel stood beside Alira and took her hand. Samantha and Aaron joined them. Alira started to sing, and the crystals glowed in blue, green, and red. The air shimmered, and a path of cool blue light grew across the fire. Daniel led the way. Feeling brave with his friends at his side, they crossed the bridge of light and reached the red crystal. Alira picked it up with shaking hands. Tears filled her eyes. We have done it, she whispered. The curse is almost broken. Suddenly the ground shook with a loud roar. The shadowy servant reappeared, trying to stop them from escaping. Daniel grabbed Alira's arm and ran. Samantha and Aaron fought off the servant with their backpacks and tools. Hitting it until it fell back into the fire below, the team hurried back over the bridge, the blue path fading behind them. Lava splashed and rocks fell, but they made it. Outside, just as the whole mountain shook with anger, they ran down the side of the volcano, sliding on rocks and ash, until they reached the safety of their rover. Breathing hard, they looked back at the burning mountain. Alira held all 3 crystals close, her eyes shining with hope and relief. Daniel smiled at his friends. We did it, he said. Now we have to use the crystals to save your world. Alira nodded. The final battle is close. Korvax will do everything to stop us now. Samantha and Aaron loaded the crystals into a safe box, and Daniel started the rover. The sky above them was dark, and thunder rolled across the land. But Daniel felt brave, stronger than ever before. With his friends and Alira, he believed they could win. Together they drove back toward the city, ready to face whatever was waiting for them. The journey back to the city felt much longer than before. The land was dark and strange shapes moved in the shadows. Daniel drove the rover while Samantha and Aaron kept watch from the windows. Alira sat in the back, holding the 3 glowing crystals close to her chest. Every time Daniel looked at her in the mirror, he saw hope shining in her eyes, but also worry. She knew that Korvax was watching, and the real danger was still ahead. As they neared the city ruins, lightning flashed in the sky, the clouds above twisted in strange patterns, and the wind howled across the empty buildings. Daniel parked the rover near the great temple where they had first met Alira. The carvings on the walls seemed to move in the light, as if telling them to hurry. Alira stepped out of the rover, her dress blowing in the wind, and called softly to the others. This is where we must use the crystals. This is where the final fight will begin. Inside the temple, the air was thick and heavy. Daniel's heart beat fast as they followed Alira to the center of the great hall. Alira knelt and placed the 3 crystals in a perfect circle on the floor. Their lights mixed together, filling the room with blue, green, and red colors. Alira closed her eyes and began to sing in her own language. The ground shook gently, and the carvings on the walls glowed with new life. Suddenly the hall grew cold. A dark shadow filled the doorway. Korvax had arrived. He was taller than any person Daniel had ever seen, with long arms and eyes that burned like fire. His voice was cold and loud. You should not have come here, humans. Alira, you cannot win. I will rule this world forever. Samantha stepped forward. We are not afraid of you, Korvax laughed. The sound echoed through the hall. You are small and weak. This planet belongs to me. He lifted his hand, and a dark wind knocked Samantha and Aaron to the ground. Daniel jumped in front of Alira, shielding her from Korvax. You will not hurt her, Daniel said. His voice shook, but he did not move away. Korvax walked closer. The shadows twisted around him, reaching for Daniel and Alira. Alira held Daniel's hand tightly. We must use the crystals together. Only then can we stop him. Samantha and Aaron crawled back to Alira and Daniel. All 4 stood together in the circle of light. Alira began to sing again, this time louder. The crystals glowed brighter, and the light pushed back the darkness. Korvax screamed in anger, sending a wave of shadow at them. Daniel felt the cold darkness trying to pull him down, but he did not let go of Alira's hand. The crystals began to float above the floor, spinning slowly. Their colors filled the hall. Alira's voice grew stronger, and Daniel, Samantha, and Aaron joined in, humming along as best they could. The light pushed Korvax back, but he was strong. He called more shadows, and the carvings on the walls shook. The fight was hard, and Daniel felt very tired, but he kept holding on. Korvax roared, "You are nothing. I cannot be defeated by humans or by a cursed princess." Alira answered, "Hope and friendship are stronger than fear." Her words made the crystals shine so bright that Daniel had to close his eyes. The shadows screamed and tried to hide. From the light, suddenly Korvax rushed at them, breaking through the circle of light. His hands grabbed at Daniel and Alira. Daniel felt the coldest chill he had ever known, but he did not step back. Samantha and Aaron shouted, pushing Korvax away. The four friends stood together, holding tight to each other. The crystals spun faster, and a loud sound filled the temple. The light from the crystals shot out in all directions, filling every corner. Korvax screamed, trying to escape, but the light wrapped around him like a chain. He fell to the floor, trapped in the circle of crystals. Alira sang a final, strong note, and the light grew so bright it felt like the sun had risen inside the temple. When the light faded, Korvax was gone. Only a small, dark mark was left on the floor. The crystals floated gently back to Alira's hands, and the room felt warm and peaceful. Daniel looked at his friends. They were tired but alive. Alira was crying, but she was smiling too. "It is finished," she whispered. "The curse is broken." Outside, the clouds began to break apart. Sunlight streamed through for the first time in many years. The wind became soft and gentle, carrying the scent of flowers. The carvings on the walls glowed with a new light, showing scenes of happiness and peace. Samantha hugged Alira and Aaron shook Daniel's hand. "We did it," Aaron said, his voice full of wonder. Alira picked up the crystals and placed them back on the altar. "These will protect my world from darkness," she said. "But I could not have done this alone." Daniel smiled at her. "You have friends now. We will always help you." The city outside changed as the sun shined brighter. Plants started to grow between the stones, and birds began to sing. Alira led them out of the temple. People made of light appeared, smiling and waving. They were the spirits of her people, free at last from Korvax's shadow. Alira bowed to them, and Daniel and his friends did the same. For the first time, Daniel felt that Xyrian was alive again. The ruins were full of hope, and the fear was gone. Alira looked at Daniel, her eyes full of gratitude. "You saved me, and you saved my world." Daniel shook his head. "We all did it together." Samantha and Aaron sat on the steps of the temple, looking out at the new world. The sky was blue, and the city shone in the light. For a long time, no one spoke. They just watched the world heal, knowing they had made a difference. As the day ended, Alira stood beside Daniel. She looked at the sky and smiled. "Thank you for believing in me." Daniel put his hand on her shoulder. "Thank you for trusting us." The night came slowly, full of stars and hope. The four friends sat together outside the temple, talking softly and dreaming of the future. Daniel knew he would never forget this place or this day. He had helped bring light back to a world lost in darkness, and he knew his life had changed forever. The days after the defeat of Korvax passed in a blur of light and hope. For the first time in so many years, Xyrian felt alive again. Daniel, Samantha, Aaron, and Alira watched the world slowly begin to heal. The ruins, once cold and silent, started to grow green plants. Small flowers bloomed in places that had only seen dust and shadows. Daniel saw streams of clean water running down from the hills, filling empty pools. Birds that had not sung for years returned, filling the city with new songs. Alira walked through the streets every morning, greeting the spirits of her people as they appeared in the sunlight. Some looked like shining clouds, others like shapes made of gentle light. The spirits would smile at her and at Daniel and his friends. Samantha sometimes cried a little when she saw the spirits waving to them. She felt lucky to be a part of this new beginning. Aaron spent many hours sending messages back to Earth. He described everything that had happened: the curse, the battle with Korvax, and the miracle that followed. Scientists on Earth were amazed by the story. They sent messages saying they would help Zarian in any way they could. Daniel knew it would take time, but he hoped that one day other humans would visit and see this world with their own eyes. One day, Alira asked Daniel to walk with her through the city. The air was fresh and the sky was a gentle blue. They passed new plants and pools full of small fish. Daniel felt peaceful. Alira stopped near a small garden where children used to play long ago. When I was young, she said, this was my favorite place. I dreamed of a future where my people would live in peace. I never thought I would see it again. Daniel looked at her. You brought this world back, Alira. We just helped. Alira smiled. You gave me hope when I had none left. That is the most powerful thing in the universe. They sat together for a while, listening to the sounds of the new world. Daniel thought about his life on Earth and wondered if he would ever want to go back. There was something special about Zarian that made him feel at home. Later, Alira called Samantha and Aaron to join them in the great temple. She had a surprise for her friends. When they arrived, Alira led them to the altar where the crystals were kept. She placed her hands over the crystals, and a soft light grew around them. My people's magic is strong again, she said. With your help, I have the power to heal what was broken. She invited Daniel, Samantha, and Aaron to place their hands on the crystals. Together they closed their eyes and thought about hope, peace, and friendship. The crystals glowed even brighter, sending beams of light across the city. Wherever the light touched, the land healed faster. Ruined walls fixed themselves, flowers grew in broken places, and the spirits of the people looked happier than ever. Aaron stared in wonder. It's like we're fixing the whole world, he said. Alira nodded. Magic is strongest when friends work together. After the ceremony, the team left the temple. The whole city seemed to shine. People made of light gathered in the square, singing gentle songs in the old language of Zarian. Samantha and Aaron joined in, trying to copy the sounds. Daniel laughed, feeling free and joyful for the first time in his life. That night, Daniel sat outside with Alira, looking at the stars. The air was warm and he felt peaceful. Alira spoke quietly. There is something I must ask you, Daniel. Now that Zarian is safe, will you stay here with me? Or will you go back to your own world? Daniel thought for a long time. He missed Earth, but he knew his heart had changed. This place feels like home now, he said. I want to help you rebuild. If you want me to stay, I will. Alira's eyes were bright. I hoped you would say that. Together we can build a new future for Zarian. Samantha and Aaron listened quietly. Samantha smiled and hugged Daniel. We're happy for you, Daniel. You belong here, Aaron nodded. Someone needs to stay. And help. I want to go back to Earth and tell everyone what happened, but I promise to come back and visit. The next morning, Alira led Daniel, Samantha, and Aaron to a special place in the city. It was a garden full of new flowers with a small lake in the center. Alira placed the 3 crystals on a stone in the middle of the lake. Light shone across the water, and the spirits of her people appeared all around. Alira spoke to them, thanking Daniel and his friends for bringing hope back to Zarian. The spirits sang a song of joy, and Daniel felt like he was part of a great story. The days that followed were busy. Daniel worked with Alira to clean the city, plant new seeds, and fix old machines. Samantha wrote a long message to Earth, telling the story of their adventure. Aaron repaired the rover and made plans for the next trip home. At night, they all sat together, talking about the future. Alira showed Daniel her favorite places: quiet gardens, secret tunnels under the city, and a high tower where they could see the stars. Daniel learned the old language of Zarian, and soon he could speak with the spirits and sing the old songs with Alira. He felt more at home each day. One evening, Samantha and Aaron told Daniel it was time for them to go back to Earth. We will come back, Samantha promised. You are not alone here. Aaron shook Daniel's hand and gave him a tight hug. Take care of this world, and take care of Alira. Alira smiled at Samantha and Aaron. Thank you for saving me, for believing in me, and for helping my people. Samantha and Aaron boarded their ship, waving as it rose into the sky. Daniel and Alira watched them leave, feeling both happy and a little sad, but Daniel knew they would see each other again. Now he was ready to help Alira rebuild and protect Zarian. That night, Daniel stood with Alira in the garden by the lake. The crystals glowed softly, lighting up their faces. Alira reached out and took Daniel's hand. "You are my friend and my hope," she said. Daniel squeezed her hand. "We are a team. We'll make sure Zarian is always safe." As the stars filled the sky, Daniel felt peaceful. He knew there would be hard days ahead, but he also knew that with Alira by his side, anything was possible. Together, they would make Zarian a world full of hope and light again. The days on Zarian became peaceful and bright. Daniel and Alira worked together every morning, planting seeds and helping the land grow green again. The three crystals sat on their stone in the garden, glowing softly. Each day, more flowers opened, and birds sang new songs. The people of light, the spirits of Alara's old friends and family, came to help. They showed Daniel how to plant the ancient seeds and how to speak to the land itself. Daniel learned quickly, smiling as he worked beside Alira. Sometimes Daniel missed Earth, but he never felt alone. Alira was always near, teaching him about her world and sharing stories from long ago. She told Daniel how Zarian once had great cities and beautiful music. Now, with hope and hard work, those things would return. Daniel knew he was lucky to see this new beginning. He wanted to make sure Zarian would always stay safe and full of life. One morning, Daniel woke early and walked out to the garden. He found Alira waiting by the lake, watching the sun rise over the hills. Her face was peaceful, but there was a little sadness in her eyes. Daniel sat next to her and asked what was wrong. Alira spoke softly. "I am happy you are here, Daniel. But sometimes I worry. What if the darkness comes back? What if Korvax is not truly gone?" Daniel put his hand on hers. "We stopped Korvax together. If anything happens again, we will face it together. Zarian is strong now, and so are you." Alira smiled, her eyes shining with tears. "Thank you for your words. I believe in hope. Again because of you." The days passed and Daniel made new friends among the spirits. Some were children, always laughing and running through the garden. Others were old and wise, teaching him the secrets of Zarian's magic. At night, Daniel and Alira would sit by the lake, looking at the stars and making plans for the future. They dreamed of rebuilding the great city and filling it with music and laughter. One afternoon, a small ship landed in the field outside the city. Samantha and Aaron had come back, just as they promised. They brought tools, seeds, and gifts from Earth. Daniel ran to meet them, hugging them both. Alira welcomed them with a song, and the spirits danced in the sunlight. It felt like a holiday. The friends shared stories, laughed together, and worked on new projects. Samantha taught the spirits how to make earth bread, and Aaron fixed an old tower so they could see even farther across Zarian. One night, after a big meal with everyone, Samantha asked Daniel, "Are you truly happy here?" Daniel smiled and nodded. "I feel like I finally found my place. Zarian is home." Alira joined them and said, "Daniel has become one of us." "He's a part of Zarian now," Aaron said. "Earth is proud of you. When we go back, we will tell everyone your story. People everywhere need to hear about hope and friendship." A few days later, Alira called Daniel to the great temple. She held the three crystals in her hands. "It is time to use their power one last time," she said. "We will make sure this world stays safe forever." Daniel, Samantha, and Aaron stood with Alira in the center of the temple. Together they placed their hands on the crystals and thought about all they had done, the battles they fought, the friends they made, the hope they brought back. The crystals glowed brighter than ever before. Light spread across the whole city, reaching every corner of Zarian. Daniel felt warmth in his heart. The spirits sang songs of joy, and even the birds joined in. The land healed faster, and Daniel knew the darkness could never return. The city became full of life. More flowers grew. The lakes were clear and bright. Daniel saw new birds and animals every day. Alira taught him how to build new homes and gardens. Children's laughter echoed through the streets. People from Earth began to visit, bringing new tools and stories. Daniel helped teach them the old ways of Zarian, and they taught him new things from Earth. Together, they built a place where everyone was welcome. One day, Daniel and Alira stood on the highest tower in the city. They looked out over the land, watching the sun set behind the hills. Alira turned to Daniel and said, "We have done something wonderful." "Thank you for helping me find hope," Daniel smiled. "Thank you for trusting me. I never thought I could do something like this." Alira took Daniel's hand. "There is one more thing I want to share with you." She led him to the garden, by the lake where the crystals still glowed. There, the spirits gathered and sang a song of peace. Alira gave Daniel a small stone, shaped like a heart. "This is a piece of my world. Keep it with you, always." Daniel promised he would. He knew that even if he ever left Zarian, part of him would always belong there. As night fell, he sat with Alira by the lake, feeling calm and happy. He looked at the stars, thinking about all the adventures that had brought him to this place. The next morning, Daniel watched Samantha and Aaron prepare to leave for Earth again. They hugged him and promised to come back soon. Alira sang a gentle song to say goodbye, and the spirits danced in the morning light. Daniel waved as the ship lifted off and disappeared into the sky. He knew his friends would return one day. And until then, he would help Alira make Zarian better than ever. With each new day, Daniel and Alira worked together, building new homes, planting new seeds, and welcoming new friends. Daniel never forgot the first moment he touched the statue and woke Alira. That one small act had changed everything. Now the world was full of hope and light. Daniel learned that courage, kindness, and friendship were the most powerful things in any world. He was grateful for every moment he spent on Zarian, for every friend he made, and for the love he shared with Alira. No matter what happened in the future, Daniel knew that hope would always win. And with Alira by his side, he was ready for anything.